Hours. Welcome everybody to the HTBox AllReady Stand-Up. We are here today to talk about a few some announcements that we've got from Tony, who's joining. We also have, I'm going to give a real quick shout out to Steve, who just joined, who just got his 100th pull request merged in this week. So just a ton of work, and that's like, we can use the British and the Canadian spelling with Tonne because we.
I'm suddenly really confused.
Well, a ton of work. It's okay. It's okay. We'll let it go. Anyways, I will give the floor to you, Tony, and you can get us up to date on where things are at project-wise.
Yes, absolutely. So thanks, everyone. So what we are doing is we are actually driving to a V1 production release of this application. It's going to happen in December. And so what we're doing is we're in progress in this. So if you're looking right now, you won't see it. This stuff will be built up today and tomorrow. But we set out some milestones, which you can look at in a second, up in the repository. And those are going to document basically what are the issues, what's the functionality, what's the bugs, and basically what do we need to get done, what do we need to prioritize, and how do we basically structure between now and December so that we can get this thing done, get it live, and get it out there with everything everybody needs. Unfortunately, Jim McGowan was unable to join us today. We started a little bit late due to technology swapping. And so he didn't join, but he'd be able to talk a little bit more about this. But ultimately, we're going after the same scenario we've talked about this whole time, only we're going to go after it in December and then January. And that's around coordinating all the volunteers to do the smoke detector installations. And so we're focusing in on how do we get those requests over from Get a Smoke Alarm, something we've been working on for a while now. How do we then get those requests to show up for an administrator so they can kind of, wave them around and line them up, set them up on days and with teams of volunteers? How do volunteers go and be part of that team? And then once they go out and do that delivery, how do we close this out? That'll help them deliver that life cycle of the preparedness campaign. So that's our focus. We're really excited about the fact that we're driving to a V1 release. This will get into the hands of folks. This will be a good sort of organizing principle which we can rally around in terms of which issues are in scope, which are not. And again, if you go up in the repository, and we can show this in a moment, there's going to be some October, November, and then ultimately the December milestones are going to show the issues with the priorities. And that's what we're going to want to all focus on so we can get this out there and get this in the hands of the users.
Awesome. Okay, so we do have some events coming up. Do you have the calendar handy by any chance, Tony?
I don't have it handy, but I think I can do this mostly off the top of my head. So this will be like a quiz for myself. So in October, we have Grace Hopper Conference, the Open Source Day. It's the last day of that conference. We will be there, as well as we'll be working with some other folks, and we'll probably, typically like we did last year, 20 or so folks come in, work on the project, work on open source, and contribute to AllReady, as well as one of our other humanitarian box projects. So that's great. Humanitarian Toolbox is what I meant to say there. So we've got Grace Hopper in October, and then in November, we've got a handful of items. We've got a event that's going to be going on in Arizona. We don't have all the details yet to talk about that. We've got an event that'll potentially be going on in Seattle as well, but we're still working on the details there. And then we're actually going to be going international, well, second international, because we did have Canada at least once. But we're going to go across an ocean, and we have an event happening in the Netherlands in November as well. I don't have the exact dates of that off the top of my head. I want to say it's around the 20th. And then following that, we'll have a couple other events that we're still planning. We've got a testathon in 2 weeks, so that's a little bit different. Less like a codathon, more a testathon at a testing conference in the US. And then we're gearing up as well. We have hopes and we have plans to be at Code Mash again this year in January. And so we've got quite a few events between now and January.
Yeah, right on. It's really picking up a lot of steam. Do you have? Do you want to share your screen there and maybe just walk through some of the milestones and containers, the buckets that you're setting up for us to organize issues going into the next couple of months?
Yep, and looks like I still remember. I think this is screen one. No, this is screen one. Sorry, it's slightly different than before. Okay, do you see?
We do.
Okay, excellent. I'll zoom in a little bit. So this is our repository, of course, as you know. And what we have is over on the issues list, we group everything by milestones. So if you click into the milestones, You'll see we have our two ones we've had before, which is technical backlog and feature backlog. That's where we have items where you can grab them, but they haven't been prioritized for our customers. Here we've got our October, November, and December milestone. Couple things to note and look at here. In the December milestone, right now, this is where we're documenting the high-level requirements of what we're going to build. And then Jim and I, and Steve's been helping with this, so yet another shout out to him. We're going to build out sort of the subdivisions of these requirements turn into these features, turn into these issues. So you can click through and look at that. But one of the best places to find priorities is to go in and look at the October milestone. That's going to be, we're trying to get a monthly cadence here for milestones. So we're marking that as due on Saturday, October 15th. That way we can review it during our stand-up. And what we'll have here, right now we don't have the prioritization in just yet, but we'll basically have all the open issues in the priority 1, which is highest, down to priority 3, which is lowest, so folks can jump in and say, hey, I want to help out with geocoding, here's the priority 1 item, and they can tag themselves as working on it and pick up that for a pull request. So again, this is our ultimate goal, December, and this is our first milestone where we're putting the most important things that we need to get done to get in front of the customer before the release.
Right on. Okay, could you actually also just pop back to the front page of that repository there really quickly? We do have, for anybody who's looking to get involved, and we have the links in the show notes as well, so feel free to check that out. But if you look here in the docs folder, you can drill into that guy. And then finally, the requirements folder, you'll see that there's actually some information here about how to get just how to get connected and whatnot. There is the already requirements as well. If you can click onto that one, the other README in there. So just some how to connect in and be involved in the project. And we've also got some links on how to submit pull requests and get the project going. For the most part, if you just jump in with Visual Studio 2015, make sure on update 3, we did actually, this morning, we just merged the 1.0.1 rebase of the code. So we're now on 101 for .NET Core. So just something to be cognizant of. So you'll want to make sure you're on update 3 of Visual Studio 2015, and you should be good to go. Anything else at the moment here, Tony?
Nope, I've also updated the repository README, so it's got the links to the right milestones and stuff there right on the homepage. Again, we'll populate this issue list out this weekend. And then in our next stand-up, Jim and I will actually probably go in and talk about one of the functionality areas. We'll record that, get a little bit of depth there. It gives another reference for people who are doing implementations.
Awesome. Okay, thanks so much. Steve, you've been busy the last week. What's been keeping you dropping code?
So this week really was getting the admin, org and site admin management of requests into the system so that we can sort of supplement that's coming in from the API. Sort of need to have a look at what else is left in that area really to move that one forward.
Excellent. And you also brought up the topic of a rename that we're going to probably try and address here in the next day or two.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so we sort of took the approach early on with our handlers of suffixing them with the async keyword, sort of to make it clear that they were async. But now that we're looking at it, we've got some really long names in there, and it's just getting a bit noisy. So it's pretty evident they're async from their base that they're inheriting from anyway. So I think we're going to clean that naming up.
Yeah, and I think we also, I mean, just from a few of us chimed in on it, but as I pointed out, you know, there's lots of classes in the .NET framework itself that do not have async in the name, but do have async functionality. So I think it's fine to leave it off the class name.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. And Dave, the last couple of weeks we've been kind of hashing through the date time issue.
Yeah, everyone's favorite topic of time zones and adjusting for time zones. So there's been, right from the beginning of the project, there's been, I think, a lot of confusion about how specifically to implement that. Currently we're using something called date time offset, which is something I didn't even know existed in the framework until I got started on this project. And I think Ryan from the ASP.NET team that kind of tipped us off on that. But basically a date time offset is just a date time stored together with a time zone. So it knows what time zone it's in, which makes it easier to convert between time zones. The downside of that is that it does cause a lot of confusion because I don't think it's really named very appropriately. A date time, it sounds like it's an offset on a date time as opposed to just being the date time with a time zone.
Right.
So That's causing some confusion. We're trying to make sure that, I'm working with Michael McCarthy on that. He did some first steps on just making sure that we consolidated our conversion code into one place where we're converting between time zones. And now we're trying to get together on a Skype call so that we can just go through and review that design, see if there's something we need to change to make sure that it's not tripping people up going forward.
Right, and then so for those of us who are doing the review on the project, we'll have to make sure that anytime anybody's submitting a PR that's affected or that has dates involved in it, that we're also reviewing accordingly and making sure that we're using date time offset.
Yeah, whatever we do settle on as a design, we're going to have to make sure it's very well documented.
For sure, and actually speaking of that, Steve and I, we were actually just talking this morning about, and I think we've actually come across this before, but what I'd like to do is add a wiki page where we just have like important decisions and link back to the issue where we discussed that if we've already hashed something out, like the date time thing we worked through a year ago, and then we just ended up going into this conversation again a month ago. So we might as well record those things.
Yeah, good idea.
Not mine, but but we'll get it done. Okay, wonderful. If Tony, anything else to join before we close the call?
No, just again, we're really excited driving towards that V1 release. We've got a great team of folks, and we keep getting folks that are joining every week, jumping in, doing some unit tests, other stuff. We've got folks now, multiple countries, multiple areas, all over 100 pull requests from Steve. Michael McCarthy's been on fire, putting a lot in there. So just great momentum and really looking forward to getting the release out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking at it here, and I was trying to get the total commits here. I was just pulling through, but we are now at over. Yeah, this last week we cleared 2,000 commits on this project. So we are doing that's people making 3 contributions a day over the. That's awesome. So we're still seeing a lot of work. Oh, I guess 6 a day because it's 365 days. We're a year out. We're 2,000 commits in. So it's just been phenomenal to see the amount of work that's been coming in. So I really appreciate that, everybody who's contributing.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Okay, we are going to be doing this on a regular weekly schedule now through till the release to make sure it's on the forefront of everybody's minds and that we're just making progress as we go. So we will be back next week, and we'll settle on the times, but we'll make sure it's well posted. We've got the new text set up.
Thank you.
I don't know if we're going to be doing this via Hangout still again, but it looks like it's live on YouTube now and whatnot. So we'll figure out what that looks like. We'll get it all scheduled, and we'll agree to some times. We'll make sure it's well posted, and you will see all of the upcoming events listed on YouTube with a countdown timer. So that's one of the nice perks about moving over there anyway. So it'll be very transparent as to where it is in your time zone. so that we don't need to do that. Time zones, math. What else did we decide? Email.
Video.
Staying in my good books.
Video.
Staying in my good books. That's the other one. Okay, thanks a lot for joining, everyone. We'll talk next week.
Bye.
Bye.